locations of the animal, intradermally, subcutaneously, intracranially, in the peritoneal cavity, or in the various locations of the body, we can introduce the viruses, and we will study the signs and symptoms showing by the animal. So this is animal inoculation, and it is a very painful way of doing virological studies on animals. So we need to stop such activities. So then we got a alternative approach, which is embryonated egg cultures. So in the embryonated egg cultures, we can able to use embryonated egg as a culture media for growing the viruses, and various viruses will grow on the various locations of the embryonated egg. So now we need to know the basic anatomy of a embryonated egg. So even I myself has worked with the embryonated egg during my studies, during my masters. So here we cutted the airspace on the top portion of the egg, and here you can clearly see a embryo and you can see blood vessels. So presence of blood vessels and healthy embryo indicates it is a living chicken or living embryo. So only in this living embryos we can go for virological studies. Okay, so here I'm studying the cancer oncogenes. So I'm studying the viruses that will cause cancer to the embryos. So this is how an embryonated egg looks like. Okay, so coming to the anatomy of embryonated egg. So in the embryonated egg, you will have a air space. Then you will have a membrane, double-layered membrane called chorioallantoic membrane. Within this membrane, you have a space, and that space or cavity is called as allantoic cavity. Then you have embryo. Embryo is connected to the yolk sac. So the yolk sac will provide nutrients to the embryo. And at the bottom, you will see albumin. And this embryo itself is suspended in a liquid called amniotic sac. So within this amniotic sac, the baby has been suspended. In that amniotic sac, obviously, you will find the amniotic fluid. So this is the basic anatomy of a embryonated egg. And various viruses can be inoculated into multiple locations of an embryonated egg. For example, pox viruses. Pox viruses will be inoculated into the cam layer of the egg. So whenever these pox virus growing inside the cam layer, this virus will start destroying the cam cells. So chorioallantoic membrane cells will be destroyed by the pox virus, resulting in formation of tiny nodules. These tiny nodules are called as poxes, POCKSS. Okay, POCKS means poxes. That means they are small nodules. Presence of these nodules indicates positive for viral growth. So similarly, we can able to identify certain features to pinpoint whether the virus grown in this egg or not. I will show you the picture of poxes. So I will show you this is chorioallantoic membrane. So this is the CAM membrane. In this CAM membrane, we have already introduced pox virus. So now you can see small white spots here and there on this membrane. So here you can see clear blood vessels, and you can see uh, white nodules. So these white nodules are the viral replication. So in these spots, the virus has replicated. Because of viral replication, you got these white spots. So presence of white spots indicates that positive for virus, especially pox virus. Similarly, um, various viruses will be inoculated in various sites. For example, yolk sac. So yolk sac is used for growing herpes simplex viruses. So all your herpes alpha, beta, gamma viruses can be grown in the yolk sac region of the egg. Whereas your influenza virus, believe it or not, students, influenza is one of the deadliest virus, and we got vaccines for influenza. Okay, the some millions of vaccine doses has developed. So millions of influenza vaccine doses has been developed purely by culturing influenza in a embryonated egg. So by using embryonated eggs, we developed millions of vaccines globally. So now you can understand how much efficient this technique is. So millions of vaccines has been produced by the help of this chicken eggs, embryonated eggs. So literally the embryos has been sacrificed their life for our good for our good healthy lifestyle. So yeah, so these are the few viruses and their targeted sites of inoculation. So there is nothing much to discuss, students. This you need to buy hard. At least you should have some idea about what viruses can be inoculated into what sites of the embryonated egg. Is it clear for everyone? Is there any confusions in this slide? I hope not, right? Are you listening,
Yes, sir.
students?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
fine.
Yes, sir.
So I
Yes,
will
sir.
perfect. I really appreciate your attention towards the class. You're really listening. So that is good thing. So coming to the next point, students. So this is all about the embryonated egg. So I'm just skipping this part. Then the next one is, so here I have given a brief introduction, a brief explanation to all the parts, like allantoic cavity can be used for influenza viruses, amniotic is for isolation of influenza, and yolk sac is for rabies and other vaccines. So these are the areas, and those are the viruses that we can include, we can incubate, or we can inoculate. Then there is a problem. There is a problem with embryonated egg. The problem is there are some viruses like HIV. If I want to study HIV virus, that HIV virus is highly specific to the human helper T cells. It will only infect humans. You cannot isolate a HIV virus via an embryonated egg. You cannot isolate many human viruses such as coronavirus in an embryonated egg. That is the major drawback of embryonated egg. Not all viruses can grow in an embryonated egg. Only few viruses we can grow them in an embryonated egg. Then what we should do? We have only 30% of viruses can be cultivated in embryonated egg. Then what about 70%? Either we should take animals or we should take humans. Unfortunately, these 70% viruses are human specific viruses. Will you take human as a subject? Will you take human as a living animal for growing these viruses? That is not possible. We need an
Yes.
alternative method. Yeah, we cannot take humans for the growth of viruses. Now, we need an alternative thing which resembles like a human to grow the viruses. So we can take human tissues. We can take human cells. Tissues will be alive in in vitro conditions. That means in a petri dish. By keeping these tissues alive, now we need to inoculate the virus. So either you can take human organs, or you can take human tissues, or you can take human individual cells for the growth of viruses. And this is how we can able to grow human specific viruses by using tissue cultures. With the help of tissue cultures, we can able to grow the human specific viruses. Now let us see what are these tissue cultures and what are the types of tissue cultures. Okay. Now let us discuss the tissue cultures. So we have three types of tissue cultures. So the basic idea of tissue culture is, first we will take the tissue from the body, then we will remove uh, the matrix proteins of the tissue. That means this tissue, these cells were stitched to a collagen fibers, and we need to remove these collagen fibers from the tissue. So those collagen fibers will be removed by enzymatic digestion. So by suspending this tissue in a pepsin solution, we can able to digest the collagen. So upon digesting the collagen, we will get pure cells. We will get the cells. Now these cells will be suspended in a culture medium. So in this culture medium, it will have all the ingredients that are essential for a cell to grow. That means it will have glucose, whatever the blood composition, whatever our blood composed of, the same composition we will try to mimic the blood inside inside this flask. Okay. So in this flask, we will keep the medium and we will introduce the cells. So upon introducing the cells will start growing inside this flask. There is a specific name for this flask. I forgot. This is cell line flask or cell culturing flask. And there is a reason. There is a reason for the shape of this flask. If you see the shape, it looks flat. The flask looks flat rather than having a rounded edges. The reason is cells have a property of adhering to a flat surfaces. Cells are evolved to grow on a flat surfaces. Even within our body, cells will adhere to the flat surfaces. That is why we need to ensure that the flask have flat surfaces. This is called contact probabilities. properties of cells. So for enhancing the contact properties, we need to ensure we will suspend the cells in this flask only. Okay, then we will collect these cells and we will go for virological studies on these cells. Now, just imagine, students, how much hard it will be to maintain constant oxygen supply to these cells. Now we need to remove their metabolites from the medium. That means they will constantly release excretory products that need to be removed. And we need to supply constant nutrition to the cell line. This is called cell lines. And we need to give constant oxygen supply to the tissues. Really challenging. And also contamination. You should ensure that the cells are sterile. They are not contaminated by bacteria or other pathogens. Since there is no immune system in a flask, there is a high chance of contamination by the pathogens. So we need to ensure that these cells are sterile. To maintain a sterile cell lines or tissue cultures, it will be a breathtakingly costly affair. To maintain a simple cell line, it will cost around some 1 lakh to keep 1 week cells. To maintain cells for 1 week in a lab, it will cost almost 1 lakh. So very costly affair. And other thing is, even after spending 1 lakh, these cells will stay only for 1 week. After 1 week, they will die. No matter how many nutrients you are giving, the cells will die because they will undergo a natural programmed cell death. They will go apoptosis and they will die. So there are many challenges to maintain a cell tissue, to maintain a tissue cultures like this. The major challenge is they will only stay alive for not more than 20 days. After 20 days, they will die. And some viruses need more than 1 month for their replication. That is the major problem of tissue cultures. And we don't have any other thing. Now I will show you different types of tissue cultures. So we have organ cultures. That means organ specific viruses need to be cultivated only specific organs. For example, coronavirus only grow in lungs. So you need a lung organ tissue culture, or hepatitis only grow in liver. That means you need a piece of liver. Cytomegalovirus only infect your brain. Then we need a piece of brain. So such cultures are called organ cultures. Then second one is explant cultures. Explant cultures means rather than taking the organ, see, always we cannot take organ from the humans. There is only one kidney is functional in a patient, and we cannot take his only one kidney for the sake of viral growth. Then what we can do is we can prepare a duplicate tissue from the organ. So minced organ is called explant. So we will take a piece of this organ, we will mince it in a fluid, then we will prepare a explant. That means we will make a layer of cells. So that is called explant. Or I will give you basic example. We need a amniotic sac tissue, but we know that amniotic sac is very important for a pregnant woman. Now what we can do is we will take the amniotic fluid. In that amniotic fluid, there might be some 1000 to 2000 amniotic cells. These cells we will filter, we will concentrate these cells, and we will make a layer of these cells. And these layered cells will be act as a tissue. Such cell layer is called as explant. Okay, so they are called explant cultures. Then we can also go for individual cell cultures. So we have three types of individual cell cultures: primary cell cultures, diploid cell cultures, and continuous cell cultures. So primary means they are the lifespan of primary cell cultures will be around 30 days, whereas the secondary cell cultures can stay almost 35 days. But even after 35 days, these diploid cells will be destroyed. They will die. Then we need a continuous cell lines. That continuous cell lines I will discuss later. Now I will tell one interesting thing in this tissue cultures. Are you following me, students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Fine.
sir.
Okay, very good. Now listen, students. I said organ cultures. For organ cultures, we need a piece of organ from real humans. For this purpose, what we can do is rather than taking organs from adults, we can take these organs from aborted babies. Sometimes some pregnant women may undergo abortion. The undeveloped babies will be aborted. The baby fetuses, okay, the fetuses we can take, and we can already the fetus has died within the womb, but still fetus has proper nutrition supply. That means fetus cells and tissues are not dead. Even though fetus dead at the neurological level, but fetus still supported by the mother's blood supply. So we can take these fetuses for growing these viruses. We can take these aborted fetuses, keep in mind. So these aborted fetuses we can take, and we can harvest their organs, and we can go for virological studies. The problem is there is a high demand for these tissue cultures across globally. Many industries are in grave need for tissues for viral studies, and they don't have much fetuses. They don't have much dead babies for them. So there is a illegal business where the doctors are purposefully killing or purposefully giving drugs to the women so that they are aborting the fetuses, and they are selling these fetuses for almost 50 to 70 lakhs per baby. They are selling these fetuses for high cost globally in a black market. So this is a unfortunate reality outside. So yes, sir. So you got my point, right? So there is a huge black market for these babies. So many doctors are doing this abortions purposefully for the sake of selling these fetuses in a black market. So this is the major concern with tissue cultures. See, when there is demand for something, people won't mind. People will do anything for the sake of money. So that is some dark area in the virology. So we cannot, we need a complete safest methods for growing viruses. We don't require organs. We should not touch these areas because these areas have many illegal implications. They require, they're doing business on fetuses. They're purposefully killing babies for the sake of virological studies. So this is not good. So I will discuss the alternative approach. Okay, let us continue with the next slide. So tissue cultures. So tissue cultures means here we have organ culture. First one is organ culture. So small bits of organs are maintained in a medium which are useful for isolation of highly specialized parasites or viruses. So for example, we will take a tracheal rings. So tracheal rings are important for growing or for isolation of coronaviruses. By the way, students, this notes of mine is 2015 notes. Okay, even 5 years ago, I have written the importance of coronavirus and its culture. So this is not a new virus actually. Coronavirus is one of the oldest. We know this virus for a long time. It did SARS and MERS, which are deadly viral infections. So for growing coronaviruses, you need tracheal rings. So you need to take a piece of trachea, the organ trachea. You need to take the piece of trachea for the growth of coronaviruses. Okay. Then explant cultures. So explant cultures means fragments of tissues will be grown as an explants. That means we will take a small tissue fragment and we will grow this tissue in a laboratory, in a petri dish. Okay, these fragmented tissue growth is called as explants. So we can use explants for the cultivation of viruses. So they are called explant cultures. Okay, so fragments of minced tissue can be grown as explants, which was originally known as a tissue culture. So this is nowadays we are not doing explant cultures because the lifespan of explant culture will be not more than 10 or 12 days. So because of its less lifespan, we have ignored this approach of taking cultures. Okay, so we have ignored explant cultures also. Then we have cell cultures. So in the cell cultures, we have two types of cells, primary cells and secondary cells. So this primary cells means these cells can be, we will harvest these cells and we will grow these cells in a medium. Okay, so commonly used cell lines are monkey kidney cells, human amniotic cells, chicken embryo cell lines can be used for vaccine production. So various human specific viral viruses vaccines will be produced by taking cells from monkeys, baby hamsters, human amniotic sac, or even chicken embryo cells can be taken for growing viruses. So that is called primary cell cultures. Okay, so primary cell cultures means these are classified depending upon the origin and chromosomal number. So very simple, the germline cells are called primary cell lines, whereas vegetative cells are called secondary cells. Sperm and ovum are called primary cells, whereas all other body cells are called as secondary cell lines. But no matter either primary or secondary cell lines, the lifespan of these two cell lines will be only 15 days, not more than 15 days. This is the major problem with cells. Okay. So few examples of primary cell lines are they will be taken from human fetuses or kidney cell lines, monkey kidney cell lines, human amniotic cell lines, or chicken embryo cell lines. Then second one is secondary cell lines. So diploid cell lines. So diploid cell lines will be taken by this. Just a second. Meanwhile, how we will obtain cells? So for taking these cells, we will subject the tissue to various steps. So first we will subject the tissue to remove its collagen fibers. Those collagen fibers will be removed by adding of some trypsin or some enzymes. Then after removing these collagen fibers, the cells have a tendency to stick each other. Cells will try to bind to the nearby cells. Now we need to remove this binding property. This removal of binding property is called as contact inhibition. We need to add certain chemicals to the cells where there won't be any contact between the cells. So we will do this particular step called contact inhibition. So we are not going to study in detail about cell line preparation. You just have an idea. So we will add the tissue into a solution where it will remove individual cells. It will digest the collagen fiber, so we will get individual cells. Now individual cells will stick each other. This sticking property will be removed by adding certain chemicals called contact inhibition. So by contact inhibition, we will get individual cells. Okay. Then diploid cells. So diploid cell lines will be taken from fibroblasts or from muscles. We will take these diploid cell lines. Okay. So a few examples of diploid cell lines are WI38, and we have other cell lines. Okay, these are called cell lines. The individual cells in a petri dish are called cell lines. Now coming to my problem. As I said, cell lines can be only maintained for 10 to 15 days, and that is not sufficient for us. Then what we should do? How we can extend the cell life in a petri dish? This is the major problem where the scientist has struggled with tissue cultures. Because of this problem, they have completely ignored the tissue cultures. Because it is costly affair and we can't maintain for a long time. Tissue cultures we cannot maintain for a long time. Rather than we can go with egg cultures or we can go with animal inoculation. So the best alternative is always animal inoculation. So we have sacrificed millions of animals for this purpose of this problem. So here everyone struck. Okay. Now I will tell you a miracle story in the virology. So are you following me, students? Are you listening to me?
Yes, sir. बिल्कुल
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes. So my problem is the problem with tissue culture is they can only stay for 15 days. After 15 days, they will die. Then I will tell you story. Listen very carefully. There is a patient in 1950s. A patient was admitted in a hospital. Her name is Henrietta Lacks. A patient named Henrietta Lacks has admitted in a hospital. Okay. When she admitted, the doctor checked her condition and the doctor came to know that this patient has a cancer. Our Henrietta Lacks patient has a cancer. What type of cancer means? It is a cancer to the uterus. It is a cervical cancer. It is a intravaginal cervical cancer. When the doctor examined the vaginal cavity, the cervix, doctor seen a peculiar thing. She has a tumor by a color of bluish green color tumor. So this is a very different type.
दीपक, शाहरुख,
क्या हुआ?
अरे भाई मेरे को लगा कि मेरा नेटवर्क गया।
Anuj, you're in the class, okay? Fine. Listen, what I'm discussing. Doctor, this doctor is already aware
The
that
cancer tissue.
it's a cancer tissue. So it's a cancer tissue. So doctor did something interesting experiment. So we already know that cancer cells, what is the property of cancer cells? They will divide indefinitely. There is no stoppage for cancer cells. They will keep on growing. They won't die. Right? Now, what this doctor did is, he took this biopsy tissue and he subjected it for cell lining. He suspended these cells in a culture media and he observed whether the cells will survive or not. He observed for 1 week, they survived. Then he observed for 2 weeks, they still survived. Then it's been 20 days, still the cells keep on dividing. They are not dying. Usually after 20 days, cells should die. Cells should go senescence. Cells should degenerate. But after 20 days, still the cells are keep on growing. Then doctor thought there is something specialty of this tumor. Unfortunately, the patient died. Patient has died, but doctor didn't said anything about the tissue he has taken. Then he waited for 1 month. Still the cells are replicating in the petri dish. Still the cells are growing. Then he waited for 2 months. Still cells are growing. So he was shocked. Something is peculiar with these cells. He waited for 3 months. Still cells didn't die. He waited for 6 months. Still cells has been replicating in the petri dish. So he took one cell, one petri dish. He took one cell from the petri dish and he suspended in another petri dish. They've grown. He took repeatedly. He has grown almost 40 kgs of cells in his laboratory of the same patient cells, and they are still growing in the lab. Immediately, he sent these samples globally to all the global scientists. This is first time the scientists got their golden answer. Till now, we don't have a we have problem of growing cells for a long time. That problem has been eliminated by this Henrietta cells. These cells are continuous cell line. They are not dying. There is no death for Henrietta cells. These cells, the patient name is Henrietta Lacks. So these cells has named by the patient. These cells are called HeLa, HeLa cells. Believe it or not, HeLa has died. Henrietta Lacks died on 1950. But right now we have 1 crore elephant. One elephant, 2 elephants. Like that, we have 1 crore elephants weight. Those many tissue has been reproduced in the laboratories of Henrietta cells. By using Henrietta Lacks, we came to know that there are 46 chromosomes in the humans. By studying Henrietta cells, we came to know the molecular machinery of human cells. By studying Henrietta Lacks, we got 32 Nobel Prize scientists by studying on Henrietta Lacks cells. So these cells are so good at replicating, so good at growing in the laboratories that these cells become a common laboratory contaminants. So if you're trying to if you're trying to grow any specific cell lines, HeLa cells are growing in those medium. It became a laboratory contaminant. That much efficient HeLa cells are. So there is a tremendous of achievements has been done by studying HeLa cell lines. And HeLa cell lines are extensively used for virological studies. They are called continuous cell lines, or they are also called immortal cell lines. There is no death for these cells. And after studying the genetics of these cells, we came to know that there is no 1 or 2 mutations in these chromosomes, but there are totally 42 specific mutations that are present in HeLa cells that have given these superpowers to the cells. So they are like a incredible hulks among the cancer cells. A very, very rarest form of cancer. Okay, she got a very rarest form and it was recognized by a doctor. And unfortunately, doctor suspended this cells and we got an accidental discovery of HeLa cell lines. Later that scientists performed other cancer cell lines and they got other cell lines also. We have pancreatic cell lines, we have other continuous or immortal cell lines. But among them, the celebrity cell line is HeLa cell lines. So if you even if you are going for your master studies, if you want to do any cell line work on viruses, means you will do your studies on HeLa cell lines. I bet some of my students will work with HeLa cells in their future course. That much efficient HeLa cell lines, sir. But there is a sad truth of this. The patient does not get any recognition for this discovery. The patient family is a very poor family. Actually, she's a tobacco farmer. The world has benefited from the HeLa cell lines. All right. So patient family didn't get a single penny out of their mother's contribution in the field of science. There is a beautiful movie called the Life of Henrietta Lacks, where Oprah Winfrey played a vital role. So in reality, what happened is this Henrietta's third generation, third daughter. Okay, so their granddaughter fight for their mother's importance. Their mother's. Yes, 5 years I have done. I will censor. Um, So she has fought efficiently with the higher authorities and somehow she has secured a little bit of amount from the scientific community, but that is not enough for the contributions made by the Henrietta Lacks. So there is a very nice documentary. I will send you the link. You can watch the movie. Tremendous job has done by Henrietta Lacks anyway. So this is the story of Henrietta Lacks and her involvement in the virology. So today we have a continuous cell lines for growing viruses. So this cell lines has developed by HeLa. They are called HeLa cell lines. So currently we are using HeLa and Hep2 cell lines. We have one more cell lines called KB cell lines. So KB cell lines are also called baby hamster kidney cell lines. So they are the baby hamster kidney cell lines. So these are the 3 most commonly used continuous cell lines for the growth of viruses. They are HeLa cell lines, Hep2 cell lines, and KB cell lines. Hep2 cell lines are the cell lines of pancreas actually. So they are the pancreatic cell lines. Okay. So these cell lines has been extracted from the cancer tumors. So from the cancer cells, we have extracted these cells. So they have immortal. They won't die easily. So we are using these cell lines for growing the viruses. Okay, so this is all about the continuous cell lines. So this is all about the viral cultivation, students. So virus can be cultivated by there's a 3 methods. Okay. So I will show you the complete classification. Okay. So viruses can be cultivated by animal inoculation or by using embryonated egg cultures or by using tissue. This viral inoculation, viral culture. students, I got some internet issue. I will send you the link of HeLa cell lines in the group. You just watch the TED video. Okay. So shall we move forward to the next topic, students? Do you got clarity about viral cultivation? Any doubts in viral cultivation, students? I hope not. Shall I continue to the next topic? Students, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I will move on to the next topic. Okay, fine. So,
Okay,
okay,
sir.
students. So, yeah. So somehow we have grown viruses in this cell lines, either by using animals or by using embryonated egg or by using cell lines. We have grown these viruses. Now we need to detect these viruses. We need to detect whether the virus has grown in the tissues or not. So my second part of this lecture will be detection of viruses after growing them in the tissue cultures. After growing viruses either in the animals or in the embryonated egg or in the tissue cultures, we need to detect this virus. So how we can detect this virus is my next part of this lecture. Detection of viruses. Okay. Now these viruses can be detected by various methods. So if the virus grown in the culture media means, then there are some specific changes will happen to the tissues. What are those changes? First one will be cytopathic effects. The first one is we can able to detect the cytopathic effects. Cytopathic effects means, listen students, I don't have any pen near me. We have a group of cells. So a tissue is made up of a group of cells. So when the virus replicating, this virus will destroy the cells. When the cells are destroyed, the shape of the tissue will be altered. Due to viral replication, tissue shape will be altered. Thus, that altered tissue shape is called cytopathic effect. The shape of the cell will be changed. By seeing the cell, by seeing the change in the cell morphology, we can able to tell what type of virus infected the media. So such cellular changes is called as cytopathic effects. Change in the morphology of the tissue is called as cytopathic effect. Many viruses will show these cytopathic effects. Upon their replication in the tissue, they will change the morphology of the tissue. The change in morphology is called cytopathic effect. Or some viruses won't show any cytopathic effect, but they will show inclusion bodies within the cell. When the virus growing, replicating within the cell, they will show inclusion bodies that we already discussed. We have nuclear, intranuclear inclusion bodies, and we have intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies. Either by detecting the tissue architecture, by studying the cytopathic effect, we can detect the virus, or by studying the inclusion bodies, we can detect the virus. Or there are some viruses that won't show inclusion bodies and that won't show cytopathic effects. Then how we can detect these viruses? At this condition, let me give you an example of influenza virus. Influenza virus has a specific attraction towards the red blood cells. It will cause heme agglutination. So after inoculating the virus in the tissue media, then if you see tissue normal and if you don't see any inclusion bodies, then just add a drop of blood to it. Upon adding red blood, a drop of blood, if the blood agglutinated means that indicates presence of heme agglutinating virus, such as influenza virus. So by that also we can detect viral presence. So that test is called heme agglutination or heme absorption test. Then we have three more tests like interference test, transformation, and immunofluorescence test. These three I will discuss later. Okay. So first let me start with cytopathic effects. So now I will discussing about the detection of viruses in cell cultures. The first one will be cytopathic effects. So cytopathic effect. So the basic definition of cytopathic effect is many viruses will cause morphological changes in the cultures, in the tissue cultures when they are growing. These morphological changes are called as cytopathic effects. And the viruses that will show cytopathic effects, they are called cytopathogenic viruses. The viruses that will change the tissue morphology, those viruses are called cytopathogenic viruses. If these viruses growing in the tissues, they will change the morphology of the tissue. That is why they are called cytopathic effect viruses. Now we have four types of cytopathic effects. One will be syncytium formation. That means cells will club together to form a giant cells. It will form a grape-like structure. This formation is called syncytium formation. Syncytium formation will be shown by measles. Measles virus will show syncytium formation. If you are growing measles virus in a tissue culture, then this measles virus will show this syncytium formation. Very, very important. You need to memorize this, okay? So measles virus will show this syncytium formation. Just a second. Let me go for okay. Now measles virus will show syncytium formation. Then there are some viruses that will show cell necrosis. So, for example, hepatitis B virus. Hepatitis B virus will attack the hepatic liver cells and it will cause a necrosis. That means it will kill the liver cells. Such viruses are called viruses will cause cell necrosis. So examples of cell necrosis viruses are enteroviruses. That means these viruses will infect the intestine, and hepatitis viruses. Hepatitis and enteroviruses will show cellular necrosis. Cellular necrosis is a type of cytopathic effect. So here the cells will go necrotizing. That means cells will undergo irreversible cell death. This cellular necrosis will be shown by enteroviruses and hepatitis viruses. Then next one is cellular clumping. So cellular clumping means here you will see clumping of cells, just like your clumping of blood. Red blood cells will clump, right? Similarly, you will see cellular clumping. This cellular clumping will be shown by adenoviruses. Adenoviruses will cause this cellular clumping. And adenoviruses are responsible for your common cold. Most of the common cold, you will say, I got viral fever, I got a sneezing in the winter. That is because of adenoviruses. Okay, so these adenoviruses will show cellular clumping. And last and final is roundening of cells. Roundening of cells will be shown by some picorna viruses. So some picorna viruses will show roundening of cells. That means the morphology of cell will change from either from ciliated cell to the round cell. So such rounding of cells will be shown by the picorna viruses. So these are the four types of cytopathic effects shown by various types of viruses. So the definition of cytopathic effect is the change of the morphology of the viral infected cell or tissue is called cytopathic effect. And the viruses that will show these cytopathic effects are called cytopathogenic viruses. There are four types of cytopathic effects. They are syncytium formation, necrosis, clumping of cells or rounding of cells. Syncytium formation is shown by measles, necrosis is shown by hepatitis and enteroviruses, clumping of cells will be shown by adenoviruses, whereas rounding of cells will be shown by picorna viruses. Picorna and herpes viruses will show rounding of cells. These are the cytopathic effects. In tomorrow's lecture, I will discuss the other things, okay? Tomorrow I will discuss about inclusion bodies and the transformation, hemiabsorption and other tests. So this is enough for today, students. So is everything clear so far? Do you understand what are cytopathic effects? Students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Let us do a quick Q&A session. So tell me classification of viral cultivation. What are the three methods we can do? Three methods of viral cultivation. One is
Animal
inoculation,
tissue culture.
then tissue culture, and
embryonic egg.
embryonated egg. Very good. Then tell me the parts of embryonated egg. Tell me the parts of embryonetted egg. We have 4 to 5 parts.
Yolk sac,
Yolk sac,
air space, something.
air space, okay. Air sac, okay.
Sac.
Then double layer membrane. What is the name of the double layer membrane in the embryonetted egg? Chorioallantoic membrane. CAM membrane, chorioallantoic membrane. Then we have a space in between this membrane. What is the name of that space? The space in between chorioallantoic membrane is called allantoic cavity. Then you have amniotic sac and the albumin. Then I hope some of my practical students, they can tell the answer. What is the name of the procedure where we can identify the growth of embryo in an egg? How you will identify growth of embryo in an egg? How you will identify growth of an embryo in an egg? Tell me, students. I have discussed this in the practical.
Sir, with P2 batch.
With P2
Not
batch.
out
Why
of-
they are not speaking P2 batch? This procedure is called candling. So by placing the egg in a strong light, we can able to see the growth of embryo. If there is embryo means it will respond to the light. And this procedure is called candling, okay? And making a hole in the egg is called drilling. So after drilling a small hole in the egg, then we will go for inoculating the virus, okay? Then what are the types of tissue cultures we have? Tell me the 3 types of tissue cultures.
Organ
Primary
culture,
cell culture,
Primary,
diploid cell,
primary, diploid, and that is
or
okay.
continuous cell lines.
Continuous
culture.
organ
cell.
culture, expand,
Very
and
good.
cell
Organ cell, organ culture and explant culture also. Very good. So this is all about the viral cultivation. Then what is this one? Change of tissue morphology is called as? Change of tissue morphology after viral growth is called as?
cytopathic.
Cytopathic efforts, okay? Now I will show you the YouTube video of HeLa cell lines or continuous cell lines. Just watch it, okay? I know you won't watch when I'm sending link. Most of you are lazy. So let us see this HeLa cell line video. So just watch it. Can you hear the sound? Are you getting sound of video? Can you hear it, students?
No, sir.
Imagine
You're
something
not getting
small,
sound,
no.
audio.
particle of dust that holds the
See
keys
now?
to understanding cancer, virology, and
Yes, sir.
genetics.
Ah,
Luckily
please
for
watch
us, on a particle of Imagine something small enough to float on a particle of dust that holds the keys to understanding cancer, virology, and genetics. Luckily for us, such a thing exists in the form of trillions upon trillions of human lab-grown cells called HeLa. Let's take a step back for a second. Scientists grow human cells in the lab to study how they function, understand how diseases develop, and test new treatments without endangering patients. To make sure that they can repeat these experiments over and over and compare the results with other scientists, they need huge populations of identical cells that can duplicate themselves faithfully for years. But until 1951, all human cell lines that researchers tried to grow had died after a few days. Then a Johns Hopkins scientist named George Guy received a sample of a strange-looking tumor. Dark purple, shiny, jelly-like. This sample was special. Some of its cells just kept dividing and dividing and dividing. When individual cells died, generations of copies took their place and thrived.